everybody, I'm Stephanie, and today I want to teach you how to use stories to teach Spanish grammar. Now, a lot of us have to use a traditional textbook, and we might have a common assessment that's written by the department, and there are explicit grammar questions on that exam. And so we do need our students to see some explicit grammar instruction. But we also understand that the best way for students to learn grammar and to actually retain it is to see it in context. So how do we provide that context for them in a meaningful way where they actually learn it and retain it? Well, let me show you. We're going to learn. The story we're looking at today looks at direct object pronouns, which is always a really difficult concept for students. I will have previously taught them the explicit grammar, and I have that here as an example. There'll always be some students that really want that concrete example. They usually end up becoming language teachers. So here I have it at the top of the screen, but our real focus today is to see it in context. So we're going to read this very short story called Te Quiero that I wrote and is available for sale in my Teachers Pay Teachers store. I'm going to pass out a hard copy to the student, and I'm going to ask them to follow along as I read. I will give you a very short demo of how I might do this in class, and then we'll talk about it more from the teacher perspective. Okay, clase, bueno, el cuento que vamos a leer hoy se llama Te quiero, te quiero, te quiero, te quiero. ¿Bien? Ok, por favor, sigue mientras que leo. Un día, Penélope recibe un mensaje por Instagram. Instagram. ¿Te gusta Instagram? Yo no tengo Instagram, pero me imagino que a ustedes les gusta Instagram, ¿no? Sí, bien. Okay. Ella lo lee y está muy alegre. Es un mensaje de Fernando, un chico en su clase. El mensaje dice: siempre te veo en la cafetería y pienso que eres muy bonita. Te quiero. Ella está súper emocionada y llama a su amiga Gertrudis. As I go through the story, I'm going to stop. I'm going to ask the kids questions. I'm going to exaggerate as I read aloud to them. My goal is to make them laugh because you want them to remember what you said. Then the next thing I'm going to do is, this time I'm going to reread the story to them, but I'm going to ask them to focus their eyes onto my screen. And as I read, I am going to underline the examples of the direct object pronouns in context. I just want them to see it. Okay, so I'll do the whole story for them, underlining. This is just to draw their eyes towards it to sort of see what I'm doing. So then after this, I'm going to ask the students to reread the story aloud to their partner in Spanish. And the reason we do this is so that they can practice their own fluency. They need to practice being fluent readers and pronouncing things correctly in Spanish. So they can either trade off sentence by sentence or paragraph by paragraph, but reread to your partner in Spanish. And lastly, the third step is to reread the story aloud to your partner in English to really make sure you comprehended everything correctly. Now, this is a strategy I've previously taught them, but let me give you an example in case you're reading for the first time with your students. So what I tell them is we don't read word for word. We look at the whole sentence and we give the gist of the sentence. Because if I were to read this whole sentence word for word, it would say, it reads and is very happy, which doesn't make any sense in English, right? So I need to first read it in my head and then say it out loud. She reads it and is very happy. So I will give them an example of this and then they'll go through. And when they're reading with their partner, I'll have asked the students to underline all the examples too. Because we've underlined or highlighted it, it's going to be an extra trigger in their brain to actually stop and think about what does this mean. Because in English, if we're thinking about it, it's backwards to us. It reads, I see. So they need to actually pause and think about how it's formed and how they see it, and then to internalize it better. They'll go through, they'll read it, I'll be circulating the room and make sure everybody understands everything. And lastly, we might reread it one more time, and I might ask for student volunteers to read and, ham it up, act it out, be as silly as possible. And that will just give us even more repetitions in the end. I hope that was helpful, and this is one example of how you can use a story to teach grammar in your language class. Have a great day!